Morning, Stephen.
Morning, Matali. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Did you get my message that I'll need to dash away at 9:30?
You did
I've
say,
got
yeah, I got that message. That's absolutely fine. Don't worry, I'm not keeping you in a cage here, Stephen. So you can-
That's fine. That's
and
fine.
I always, we've got a few more people coming. And I always, I always send a replay out to
Yeah,
people who don't attend, but also the people who can attend as well, just if they want to go back over something that I
right.
said. So
No
don't
worries.
worry. Well, if you do miss anything, it's
Yeah.
going to be recorded. Well, it's actually going out, like it's live streamed at the moment. So I will send you a link to it.
Okay. Great.
Morning, Michelle. I think Tanya's coming in as well. So we'll start in about 4 minutes or so. So I'm just going to wait until people come in. In fact, what I'm going to do is my legs are getting stiff. I'm going to actually start my little treadmill. It's honestly, it's so weird, Stephen, that up until February of this year, I sat down.
Right.
Morning, Michelle. But now I've been doing it
Morning.
in February. It's honestly, it feels weird if I don't start walking. It's like my body's got used to pacing. It really thinks very well when I'm pacing. When I'm stood
Right.
still, it's like my brain stopped as well. Morning, Tanya, when you get your audio. Okay, so any interesting things happen? Anything happened to you, Stephen? Michelle's disappeared somewhere, but I'm sure she's going to be back. Anything happened this week?
This week, no, nothing dramatically exciting. This week, just I think I've got one eye on Christmas and trying to get things,
Yeah, I was just
in the
about to
day
say,
job
how
sorted.
prepared are you for Christmas?
Right now in the middle of things, so yeah, with my day job, yeah, lots of stuff going on for the next couple of weeks now. It should settle down, so it's all on hand. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
busy. It's busy. Aye.
It's been interesting for me because every year I've never been able to have the Christmas dinner that I want
Mm,
because it seems like the vegan options are always
mm,
taken by about
yeah,
October. So this year I put a reminder on my calendar to get my dinner in October. So
all
basically,
right.
I booked my dinner in October to make sure that I would get my proper, rather than sort of like a makeshift vegan meal,
Uh-huh.
which is never as nice. But I asked the vendor and said, is it because you just don't have many people want? Because obviously you have to remember I'm in the northeast. I'm not in
Yeah,
somewhere like London where like veganism is just huge. So I thought, is it because you just don't order
mm,
enough of these because there's not much demand? So then the few people and they're like, no, each year we're increasing it, but
yeah,
lots of non-vegans are now eating vegan food. So I found
right.
that quite interesting.
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't know how I felt about it, Stephen. On the one hand, proud. On the other hand, leave my food alone. I can't eat your stuff, remember? So it's an interesting feeling. How are you doing, Michelle?
Yeah, good, thank you. That's just made me laugh actually because when I do events
Yeah.
and I do the vegan part of it, obviously, it's you have to put the shout out to the vegans who it's meant for first before the non-vegans come in and maraud it because they want to try it because it's not, it's
Which is
different.
great, which is what
It's
you want
great,
them to do. But it's
but not for
difficult
the
with the
vegans.
vegan when it's like, well, we can't do a swap here. This is the problem.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, so they end up with like nothing.
I know I've been there. I've been to like potlucks and where I'm just sat there starving, thinking, right, well, it's all gone now. There's still a whole table of food, but I'm not eating it because it's
You're
swimming in
starving.
animal products. Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, that vegan stuff was lovely. I'm just like, yes, thanks for that.
Was it?
Well, yeah, lovely. While my stomach grumbles in the background.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's I feel conflicted. On the one hand, it's brilliant. I want people to try the vegan
Yeah.
options and not see it as inferior, because a lot of times it isn't. It actually is tastier, you
It's
know.
so much nicer. Yeah,
Exactly. But at the same time, it's sort of like, get away from my food.
I know, right? So I always say to people when they're doing these events, just cater for an extra 10 on the vegan side of it because it's guaranteed you're going to get non-vegans coming in to try it. So lessen the non-vegan side and increase the vegan side.
Exactly. Good idea. Good idea. Morning, Tanya. How you doing?
Yeah, sorry, I had my camera off because I was eating my breakfast. I just got back from the school run, and I was like, "Oh no,
You're
I'm eating
amongst friends, Tanya. You're amongst friends. You eat your breakfast in front of us. People wouldn't care.
Yeah,
People wouldn't care. How are you doing?
yeah, good, thank you. Just really busy, aren't we all? I mean, when do we get time to rest in this lovely vegan world that we have? Honestly, oh dear. But yeah, it's all good. I've been,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I've been enjoying
let's
using Canva the last couple of nights.
Yes.
Canva's brilliant.
Oh,
I-
yeah. I've got
Good.
like a pro subscription.
I love it.
for It's absolutely, yeah. I love Canva, and for the price it asks for, it's just brilliant. It really, really is.
Well, I haven't paid for anything yet, so I don't know how much it's going to be, but I tell you what, it's worth it because you can do slideshows on it, you can write books on it, you do everything,
You
don't
can
you?
even edit videos. You can add videos into images, and I've got the pro version, and I think it's about just under $100 for a
year?
year.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, even the free
amazing.
version is great, but if you want all the pro bits, which
Yeah.
is worth it, it's under $100 for a year.
That's
Like,
insane.
yeah, it is.
Wow. But they are like the only platform offering that much expertise, aren't they? There's nothing else out there.
Don't know anything. They really have
Yeah.
to market. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of like, unless you want to become very good at Photoshop, which is you have to pay a lot of money for that anyway.
Yeah.
Plus, I've had a look at Photoshop, and I just thought, yeah, this is me. It's several days into YouTube tutorials just to make this work for me. And I don't have the time to figure all that out.
Yeah,
But
kind of Canva's very self-teaching, isn't it? It's very, yeah, it's just really user-friendly. Love it.
Morning, John. Morning, Alan. I hope you are doing well.
Hi, morning. Apologies, a bit late.
That's all right. That's all right. I always give it a few minutes before I start because I know people filter in. Okay, well, let's get started. So thank you so much for coming for today's Thought Leader Author Forum. I've got some slides, so let me start sharing my screen. Can everybody see this? Yes?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. So thank you so much for coming. So if you've been to one of these before, you'll know the structure. But if you haven't, I'll just quickly go through the structure. So part one, for about 15 to 20 minutes, it's just me riffing. Today we're talking about 3-step formula for book planning that garners 5-star reviews. Okay, so I'm going to give you a 3-step formula. I'm very specific about things. I don't really do sort of wishy-washy stuff. I'll give you a 3-step formula that pretty much guarantees you're going to get 5-star reviews. Okay, and then part 2 is the exciting bit. This is the bit where you're allowed to ask questions, give me your opinion. I think we've got an author in our midst here as well. Alan, I'm sure you're an author several times, so I'd love your opinion on things. Feel free to disagree with me as well. I'm one of the few people you'll meet who actually enjoys when people disagree with me. Not because I like having a Barney or anything like that, but I just feel that if someone disagrees with me, it's a point of learning for me. So I love that. So feel free to really take that opportunity to get your opinion out there, ask the questions. That's why I called it a forum. I didn't want these meetings to be, you know, like a webinar. I wanted it to be something where I give you a little bit of information, but then I want to hear your opinions and questions. So make sure you do take advantage of that. Okay, so I sent out a post on LinkedIn on Monday. Really simple post, as you can see on the left-hand side. I just want to know about people's good book experiences. I just want to know, have you left reviews for nonfiction books in the past? And I wanted people to share in the comments the last time they left a 5-star review and why they felt that book deserved 5-star reviews. Now, because I'm a publisher, I kind of knew what the answers were going to be. However, I think a few years ago, before I was a book publisher, I would have been surprised. There were so many messages from people who are readers. They read books regularly. They enjoy books, and yet they still don't leave any goddamn reviews. And that's the reality for the most authors are faced. You've got Martin on the left-hand side saying, that's an interesting question, Mitali. I wonder why you ask it. But to answer it, no, never left a book review. I'm clearly on the naughty step with this one. Now, I know Martin is a reader. I know there's several books he likes, still never left a review. You've got Bev, he said, I'm bad at this. I do not go and give reviews. Something I need to change, as I've read some amazing nonfiction books. Amazing. She says there are books that are amazing. Still never went and left a review, even just a couple of lines somewhere. She's never left a review. This is the reality the authors face. Even when you've written a good book, people kind of in their heads think, oh, that's a great book. They might tell a couple of people, but that's it. They never think of going to leave a review. In fact, they're actually more motivated to leave a bad review. I tend to find people are moaners. When they're upset about something, they're more likely to go and leave a review, but they can think something is amazing, as Bev says, and still not go and leave a review. Okay, we've got David Pugh at the bottom saying, I can't remember when, although I should give a 5-star to Alex Hormozi. He even remembers the author's name that he wants to give a 5-star review to, still hasn't given a goddamn 5-star review. What's going on here? I managed to find, thankfully, a couple of people who have left 5-star reviews. And I thought it was quite interesting to see why they did it. So we've got Scylla here. Now, Scylla's saying, do audiobooks count? Well, yes, of course they do. Books are books. I don't really care what medium people are consuming them in. They're books. So if so, my last time was today. I left 5 stars because of the great storytelling and the fact that the author helped understanding with small summaries at the end of each chapter. I thought that was interesting. The practicality of the book. That's what really made it give a 5 stars. We've got Justin Lee, who's recommending Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. It provided such practical insights into understanding and managing emotions. And I thought these 2 responses were really interesting because it kind of gives you a little bit of insight as to why people leave 5-star reviews. And it's my understanding, after studying many books, I've now published over 30 authors, the reason why people leave 5-star reviews is when they feel a book is actually getting them from A to B. Yes? Always keep in mind, people read nonfiction in general because they want to know something or do something, or in a lot of cases, they want both. They want to move from A to B. Unless the only nonfiction kind of books I think that people don't need that will probably be autobiographies or possibly, autobiographies, memoirs. I can imagine, for example, the biggest selling book in 2023 is Prince Harry's autobiography. Well, no one's reading that book on how to become a prince. They're reading that book because they're interested to know, they're nosy and they want to know what's going on with the royal family. So they're not wanting to learn anything apart from salacious information. So apart from, is somebody on? I just want to make sure, there's somebody, if I can ask you to mute, please. And then that way there's not any background noise.
I know it is.
Or I'll see if I can mute everybody, because that would make it easier. Is that stopped? Great. I should be able to mute everybody myself, but I can't see where the setting is. Never mind. Okay. Right. So let's go back here. So yes, that is my understanding of nonfiction books. Unless it's a celebrity autobiography or memoir, people are reading these books because they want to get from A to B. Whether they were aware of it or not, they want to know something or they want to do something. So when you make the book practical, it actually moves people from point A to point B. That's what draws them into leaving a 5-star review. Otherwise, as you found out, from what Bev said before, you can literally have amazing books, but they still don't feel the need to leave a 5-star review. And I guess that makes sense. If you think about it, we do live in a world awash with how-to and self-help and guide style books. And I'm always amazed that we're not walking around living the most charmed lives. I mean, if you think about it, we should all have the best careers, the best businesses, the best relationships, the best sex life. We should have everything because we've got books now on every single subject. And yet when you look around, most people are still walking around really unhappy. So that kind of proves that we're now in an era of voracious content consumption. We sit there and consume content, doesn't actually mean we're implementing anything. Because if we were implementing all that advice in those books, like I said, we'd all be living pretty charmed lives. So if you can understand that and write a book that isn't just amazing in terms of storytelling and content, which is important, but also make it practical, that's how you get 5-star reviews. So here's the formula that I use for my book and also all my clients use. So the formula is, as a type of person, so you need to focus on who your book is for. If you're writing, if you think, oh, my advice can help everybody, I'm worried for you. First of all, your advice can help everybody, but that doesn't mean you actually help everybody. You've got to focus on a particular kind of person. Otherwise, I mean, the analogy I use is trying to buy a gift from somebody for somebody that you don't know. On the one hand, the world's your oyster. You can buy any gift you like. On the other hand, it's really difficult to buy a gift for somebody who you don't know. Whereas when you know somebody and you know their likes and dislikes, yes, it's narrowed down the present that you can give them, and yet it's so much easier to actually buy a present for them. But guess what? It's really difficult to write a book and make it resonate when you're aiming for everybody. So you need to focus on who is the type of person your book is for. Next part of the formula, I need to know, well, as I said before, they need to know or be able to do something, or even both. Focus on that. Why is somebody reading a book? Take ego out of it. People don't read non-fiction books, apart from autobiographies and memoirs of famous people that they like. They generally don't read non-fiction for pleasure. There's fiction for pleasure. They read non-fiction because they want to know or be able to do something. What is it that you want them to know or be able to do something that they weren't able to do before your book? As I said, A to B. Think in terms of somebody is at point A, and after they've read my book, they're going to be at point B. What do they need to know or be able to do? Final part of the formula, so I will get a benefit from that. Be very, very aware, human beings are lazy as hell, even the ones who say they're not lazy. We generally don't do anything unless we can see a benefit. Whether it's real or not, we need to perceive a benefit from it. So always keep in mind, what are they going to benefit from by being able to know or do that thing? So I'm going to give you the formula that I used for a book that I'm currently writing, and I think I'm going to publish it in 2024. But I keep getting busy with all my authors and helping them publish their books. So my book keeps getting delayed, unfortunately. So maybe 2025. But this is my formula, okay? So the people that I'm aiming for are purpose-led business book authors. I should actually put budding in there so they haven't written a book yet. But they're purpose-led business book authors. They need to write a book that inspires and changes attitudes, turning me into a thought leader. That's the key people that I work with. I'm working with B Corp, sustainability practitioners, ethical business owners, plant-based business owners, people who want to write a book that inspires and changes people's attitudes, allows them to see this, something that they're doing inadvertently is actually causing harm elsewhere, and allows them to be turned into a thought leader. So that way they can get more visibility and get their message out there in a bigger way. So what's the benefit? So I can get more visibility for my mission or cause and make a bigger impact. That is going to be the main angle of my book. And I hope you can see when you use this formula, I'm sure you've read books in the past which seem to have everything but the kitchen sink in there. That's what happens when people don't use a formula like this. Instead, what they want to do is download everything in their brain into a book. First of all, the book's going to be about this thick. No one wants to read a book that big. People have very short attention spans. And also ends up becoming a book for everybody. And that old saying, when you try to be everything for everybody, you end up becoming nothing to everybody. So by having a formula like this, you can distill things and make sure you only put information for that specific person that actually moves them from point A to point B and give them a benefit as to why you're doing that. Now, to move this further, What's really cool about this formula is it doesn't just give you the overall angle that you want to use for your book. You can then use it to sequence your entire book. So it's better if I just show you how I did it for my book, and that way you can apply it for your situation. So as you can see, the first part of the formula always stays the same, because if you think about it, you're not changing who the book is for from one chapter to the next. So as a purpose-led business book author, that stays at the top. But then what I've done is I've remembered I'm taking people from A to B. A is they're a purpose-driven individual. They've got a mission. They want to write a book, but they've got no idea how to go about it. That's position A they're in. Position B, they're a published author. I'm not just a published author, but the author of a book that genuinely impacts people and makes a change. There's my A to B points. So now I have to use the formula and sit there and think, how am I moving that person from A to B? So the first thing they'll need to know is they need to know how to research their book. And why do they need to know that? Remember, you always got to think of benefit. Human beings are not motivated to do anything unless they perceive a benefit. So the reason they need to know how to research their book is so they include information in the book that's guaranteed to appeal to the reader. Yeah. What's the next thing they need to do going from A to B? Well, they need to know how to plan their books. Why do they need to do that? Because they need to be confident about the specifics they need to cover and keep the book on track so it doesn't become this huge book where you've thrown everything but the kitchen sink in there. What's the next thing they need to know? Well, after they plan their book, they need to know how to write their first draft quickly. What's the benefit of that? Because they need to make rapid progress. I'm sure we've all met people who've been writing a book for 2 years. It actually really damages your motivation and self-esteem. You need to get your first draft done quickly. It doesn't matter how many typos there are, grammatical errors, it doesn't matter. You need to get the first draft out as soon as possible, because that really boosts your confidence and makes you think, okay, but I've got it out now. Now all I need to do is edit it and tweak it. And so on and so forth. I'm not going to read through the entire thing, but I hope you can see this formula as I need to, and so it actually, you can use it to structure your entire book. And it makes it, a lot of people say, well, that's actually quite simple. And I said, well, yeah, but the best things in life are quite simple. That is how you structure a book. You're moving people from A to B. They're at A, which is they don't know or they're not able to do something. And they get to B, where they do know or they are able to do something. Can you see how you actually, if you follow this through, you have a very practical book. And this is more likely to make somebody leave a 5-star review, because it's all about practicality. It's got to make people feel like, I get it. And I'm able to do something. That's why I said there's so many amazing books out there, but they're not always practical. They're very inspiring, great storytelling, great use of language. I'm not saying all of that doesn't have a part to play. It absolutely does, especially storytelling. I'm a big believer that human beings are not very good with facts and figures. If you just tell people what to do, it tends not to bed in. But you tell them stories, then that information is like to bed in. So there's a time and place for storytelling and inspiring language. But you can have amazing stories, you can have amazing inspiring language, but if your book isn't practical and doesn't move people from A to B, you're not going to get 5-star reviews. You're going to get people like Bev who are like, oh, that book was amazing, still never left a review. Okay. So you don't have to make any notes. If you have been making notes today, that's fine. But you don't have to make any notes, because what I will also do is I will send you this workbook. And you can actually, you'll be able to see this. So you can actually see all the way I got through my book. And then it's a fillable PDF. And what I ask you to do is even if you're not even thinking about writing a book right now, if you were to write a book, see if you can sequence it through. So start off with your overall book angle, but then see if you can break it down and take people from A to B. And guess what? A lot of people struggle with the whole, what order should I put my chapters in? When you follow this formula, you don't even have to decide. It makes sense. If you look at mine, there's no way, for example, why would I put how to do a developmental edit earlier in the book? Why would somebody want to know how to developmentally edit a book when they haven't even planned their book? Why would someone want to know how to sell their book worldwide when they haven't even written a book? Can you see what I mean? It's you start to realize how logical this is. You just need to take people from A to B. And then you will work it out. You will work out what is the first thing you need to say to that person. And then what's the second thing they need to learn? What's the third thing they need to learn? What's the fourth thing you need to learn? Just keep going through logically, taking them from point A to point B. So, any questions? I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to open up to the room now. Let me stop sharing. What are your thoughts? Any questions or any opinions? You can just join in.
Question.
Just join in.
So I'm really happy that I came to this session today because I've already planned the book. So I've already gone from A to B.
Yeah.
And it's already down on paper. So I've got a start and I've got a finish.
Right.
It's the bit in between that I'm struggling with to get it. I've got the knowledge. It's all down on paper. Literally, it's in note form. It's come from my notes onto Word. And then I'm like, but it's like the part I'm stuck with is how do you know how much you need to write? Because I could be writing forever and because I've got so many instructions, it's unbelievable. But it's like, how do you know what makes the book the right size? How do you know what is right for the reader? Because can I share the context of my book? It might help.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I wrote a book to solve a problem from parents having fussy eating children, basically, to get them from eating no veg to eating at least one veg more than they did yesterday. It's literally as straightforward, and it's a tried technique that I've used on lots of parents. I've got 100% success rate, and I've now put it in one place, which is like an easy to use sort of pocketbook, if you like. But it's the bit I've got the solution for their problem. I know what the problems are. I've done all my research, but it's how much do I put down on paper? Because I've probably got like 50 instructions for parents. But the thing is, you know what parents are like, they're all really busy. No one wants to be reading a massive book, do they? On like how to do something.
Yeah, well, I'm not a parent and I still can't be bothered to read a massive book. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
so
it's like
an
instruction manual. Yeah, mine's honestly like an instruction manual, obviously done in a nice fluffy way, but it technically is an instruction manual, how-to guide. So how do you know how much to put in there? That's why I'm stuck. That's why I've been sat here for a year talking to you, Mitali, about how do I do this.
That's it. Well, again, I mean, let's go back to the formula. So if I start sharing my screen again. Okay, so if you go back to the formula, think of the A to B. So you basically, your A to B is a parent who's despairing at the fact that a child just refuses to have any fresh vegetables. Mm-hmm. Which as a parent, you just know, I mean, children are resilient, they don't need to eat vegetables and they're going to be fine because they're children. But later on in life, that's going to bite them in the ass, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So as a parent, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm failing as a parent. That's where they are at A. And B is a child that actually asks for vegetables at meal times, and the parents going, oh my God, I don't even have to push it anymore. They're actually asking for vegetables on their plate. So you need to sequence what do they need to get from A to B? And chances are they don't need to implement all those 50 things. And that is what you work out. You work out what is the minimum. I mean, what do software people call it? When they release something. It's
minimal viable product.
That's it. Yeah. I knew you were going to say. John, by the way, is a technical person. That's why I knew that John was going to come with that. Yes, that's what you need. Think in terms of minimum viable product. What do people need to move that child from A to B? And I'm not saying you can't write about all the other points, but that's great information to maybe put on social media, put it into blog posts. But you don't want to put what I said before, you don't want to stick everything but the kitchen sink
Yeah, you need to hold something back. Yeah, I get
Exactly.
you.
It's
Okay.
not even just holding something back, Tanya, because that almost feels like you don't want to give away your best information. It's not even holding something back. It's respecting somebody's time. And
Yeah.
people always want to know what is the easiest, most efficient way to get from A to B.
Okay.
No one wants a
That's-
scenic route to a solution.
No, that's what I'm worried about. I could go off in so many tangents explaining why you've come to this problem, but they don't need to know why they come to this. They've got
To be honest,
they know they've got it, you know.
The why of the problem could be literally just one chapter, if that.
Yeah.
You don't need to. Chances are, and again, this is going back to you understanding the first bit of this formula as a type of person. Now, if your person, the person who's reading a book, is somebody who already knows there's a problem, then you don't need to spend much time in the book describing the problem. Now, if your book was aimed at parents who didn't realize that it's problematic that their children are not eating veg, can you see how that would be different?
Yeah.
Now you would spend, now the A to B would actually be different. The A to B would be A, the parent doesn't understand how their child not eating vegetables is storing up so many problems when that child gets older. To B, they fully understand what they need to do as a parent. The A and B is now different. So that completely changes what goes into the book. But what you're explaining to me is the people who are going to be reading your book, they're aware of the problem. So they don't need the problem really agitated all that much. Probably a chapter at the beginning is all they need. What they need is practical insights from moving their child from A, won't eat vegetables, to B, love vegetables.
Yeah. Okay.
And you want to, like John said, was it minimum viable product? Did you say?
Yep.
John?
Yep. MVP. Yeah.
MVP. Think of that.
Okay, will do.
Does that make sense?
Thank you very much. That's really helpful. I want to get off this call now and start writing
I'm
my
glad.
book.
I'm just sorry that we didn't we didn't speak about this before, because you've just been struggling for a year and you didn't need to, actually.
Yeah, I know. I could have, because it's all there. It's all done. It's just I don't know how to. Yeah, I didn't know how much I needed to put in the book, basically, but now I completely get it. It's
minimum,
the minimum
viable product.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep using that, John. Now
I'll just say MVP.
MVP, but yeah, it's less is more. It truly is. And again, that also goes back to the 5-star reviews. People could be really enjoying a book, but if the book is long, it's taking them longer to get through it. Chances are some of them won't even get through it. And guess what? Then that also stops them leaving a 5-star review. I don't know what, I remember doing this with my book. I would have people who said, oh, I love your book so far. That tells me straight away that they haven't finished reading the book. I'd be like, that's amazing. Can you please leave me a 5-star review? As an author, it really helps. And they're like, oh, I will once I finish the book. That's another problem. People think they need to finish a book to leave a 5-star review. And I keep having to educate people that if you get something good, even if you're only 2 chapters in, you are allowed to leave a review. There's no law saying you're not allowed. There's not like an Amazon review police who are going to come knocking at your door because you haven't finished a book and you've left a review. So again, you don't want this huge book that has everything but the kitchen sink in it, because again, you're stopping the chance of getting 5-star reviews. But great question. Thank you, Tanya. And I'm glad that's helped you out.
Actually, it's really helped me as well. I never equated that metaphor, the how you develop software and how you develop a book. I mean, this is what I've done in the past, but I never matched those two up. But that's going to be super helpful for me moving forward.
I know which language to speak with you, John. By the way,
very logical.
John, by the way, signed up to be. He's writing his book in January with me.
Oh, that's exciting!
So, yes, I'm excited. I'm excited about John's book. It's going to be fantastic. I already know it. But yeah. I know the language to use with you, John, because I know how your brain works. But it's actually, these books, I always say these books are less written and they're more assembled. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? It's not really, I'm not knocking. There's loads of people, lots of my peers who, help people write books in a more creative way. I'm not knocking what they do. I think that's fantastic. There is a lot to be said for writing for the sake of writing, for creative writing, but that's not what my clients want from me. My clients are not writing for the sake of writing, you know, they're not writing to de-stress or anything like that. They're writing because they have a specific mission or cause that they need to get out there. So these books are less written, they're more assembled for success. Yeah, so I don't really want people going off on a tangent. I can be a little bit draconian in that way, because I'm not operating a creative writing program. That's not what I'm doing. I'm helping people write books specifically for thought leadership, so they can get more visibility on their mission, their cause, whatever it is they're trying to do in the world. So these books are assembled and they're very specific. They're structured in a very specific way. As you've seen, if I go back to my slides, you're getting people from A to B, and you've got to focus on that. Anything extra, you're just adding fluff to the book. Even if it's well written, you're adding fluff to the book. And like I said, you can write those things, but could that be a blog post? Could that be social? You'll still need those things. I wish I can say you just write a book and then that's it. You can give up on social media and you can give up on online content. That's not the world we live in. As a business or brand owner, or even just an author, you kind of need to be online now. So you still need the online content. So absolutely write all that information, but does it need to go into the book? That's a key thing. And I've had people do that. I've had people write so much, and then we've trimmed the book almost by 50%, but it's not wasted content. They're not sat there thinking, oh, all that time and effort I spent writing this book, and she's cut it down by 50%. They're actually really happy. It's like, oh my God, I've got like a year's worth of blog posts going on here, or I've got like a year's worth of social media posts. And then I'm like, yeah, it's great. And think about it, after a year, you can just recycle that content because no one remembers what you posted last week, mine last year. So you've now got literally evergreen content to go out as articles, as blog posts, as social media posts. And you can see people's faces light up. It's like, I never have to sit there and think, oh my God, it's Monday, I need to post something about my business. I don't know what to post. It's like you've got content galore.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
I've got a quick question around the reviews, Mitali.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's not that part of the process seems so far away. I didn't think about reviews, but it's interesting to think about it now. So like you say, even a great book, and then people still aren't leaving reviews. I'm just wondering. So even if you follow a lot of the great advice you're putting into getting the good book,
you still
yeah.
Even I'm just wondering. Then you still won't get all the reviews that you deserve. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, is there a way to sort of, I don't know, encourage people or incentivize people to leave reviews, or is there a way that people to do that? I don't know. Is there tricks?
That's a really, really good question. Thank you for asking that. But before I answer that, I would love to, anybody here who hasn't had a one-on-one strategy session with me, I would love to speak to you one-on-one, because that's why we can discuss things like this. We can discuss questions. If you have questions regarding how do I get reviews for my book, we can then create a session where I answer all of those questions. So just before I answer that, if you can give me 2 minutes, let me just go back to my slides. So these are the kinds of results I get for my clients. God, that sounds very pompous. It's not that I get for my clients, I help my clients get. That's what I mean. That sounded really pompous, like they don't do anything. No, my clients are hardworking and they do what I tell them. So, my clients get these kinds of results. So people who become keynote speakers, people who end up, landing their own shows to really get their mission and their cause out there, they're able to charge more for what they do. And that's a key thing I teach. Just because you're a purpose-driven individual doesn't mean you shouldn't make money. There's a lot of people who think money's evil. Money's not good or bad. It can't be. It's a thing that we invented. It depends on whose hands it's in, whether it's used for positive or negative impact. And my goal is to position purpose-driven individuals to make as much money as possible, because that way you're taking the money away from people who are doing it for bad intentions. And then it's great for people who struggle with sales and marketing. A lot of us do. We don't like sales conversations, and a book could pre-sell you, so it makes those conversations easier. And this is the roadmap. So this is what John's going to go through in a few weeks' time. So I'm very excited to take him through this. We've got it all laid out for you. So if you're kind of thinking, yeah, I quite like the idea of writing a book, but again, that A to B that I was talking about before, you're not really sure. You know what A is, you want to write a book. B is you're a published author, successful author, you're leveraging a book. That's where you are. But you don't know how to get from A to B. Well, guess what? We've already mapped it out for you. We take you through a very specific structure that's guaranteed to give you success. And yeah, so these are more people that I'm helping. Well, I've already helped and they're doing incredibly well. They're now thought leaders. So they are on TV, they are in newspapers, they're attracting influencers. And that is the goal, to get your mission and movement out there in a big way. So what we discussed, so just to give you an idea what these strategy sessions are like, part one, we discuss where you are now, and we discuss where you would like to be in 12 months. Again, thinking of that A to B. I'm a very specific person. You can see how my brain works. I'm all about not just having fluffy conversations. I want to know where you are and where you want to be in 12 months. Then we discuss, well, how we're going to get you there, what process is going to get you there. And part three is, if my program feels like it can be part of the process, then I will go through my program with you. It may not. It could be that your A to B doesn't involve working with me, and that's cool too. I'm still happy that I'm able to help you now see where your A and B points are, and you now have an idea of how you're going to get to B, even if that means that my program isn't suitable for you. So if you're interested, in fact, let me just show you how to do that. Hopefully, there we go. There's my calendar. So I'll put this link into the chat now. Oh, I've got no time tomorrow. Oh, somebody must have already booked for tomorrow. So I should have some time on Friday. Yes, I've got loads of time this Friday and also the following Friday. So feel free to book yourself in and let's work out your A to B points and work out how you're going to get from A to B. So 2024 will be the best year so far. So let me put these details into the chat.
Vitaly?
Yeah.
You know, it said on there when you can help with regards to setting up the Amazon account, and then it said something about eco-friendly book options. That's one of the reasons why I've stayed stagnant as well for a while, because I can't get my head around the basically the printing of it. I don't like the idea the book is printed, for one, but the fact that you have to do it. How is it possible to get Amazon to print your books with vegan ink and environmentally friendly? You know, I've no idea.
Great question. Can I answer John's question first? Because I put that on pause. I didn't want to leave him hanging. And then I'll answer that question, Tanya. But that's a great question. I'll answer that. Okay, so John, you asked a wonderful question regarding how can you incentivize people to leave reviews? And I'm glad you asked that. Even when you follow my methodology maximizes the chances of people leaving 5-star reviews. Does it guarantee that every single person is going to leave a 5-star review? Unfortunately not, because as you've seen, people can be amazed by books and still not leave a 5-star review. So yes, you can incentivize, but you've got to be careful, because Amazon don't like it, understandably, because they want to have some kind of control over their review system. There's a lot of people who rely on those reviews to make an informed purchasing decision. So you can do it, but what you need to do is I mean, what my clients do when we do this, no, we don't do this for all clients. Some of them want this. What we will do is we will create a campaign. So usually 2 to 3 months before the book is due to be launched, what we will do is we'll get that author to start canvassing. So they may do, if they're big on social media, that I will say, you need to start talking about your upcoming book 2 to 3 months in advance. It's not good enough just a week or two before the book comes out. Before that, another great way is, once you're on social media, or if you've got a website or a blog that gets enough hits, is to now put people onto an email list. I did that really successfully with my book. So I started promoting my book 2 months before it actually launched. And what I did, whether I was on social media or wherever I was doing a number of podcasts as well. I was driving people to a landing page on my website. And there I incentivized it by saying, if you leave your details, when the book comes out, I will give you some bonuses. And I gave them a couple of downloadable PDF bonuses. Okay. And then in those PDFs, I was saying, hey, can you please go and leave a review? It really helps. And so it's a kind of incentivized actually getting a bonus, and then they feel like that. But I think that's another a piece of human psychology we're using as well, to make people feel that they're part of your book. That really incentivizes them, John. So instead of a product that you're just giving them as a present, you make them feel part of your success. I did that a lot when my book became a bestseller. I remember going on social media and thanking people, not as people who bought my book, but as people who are part of this best-selling success. So when you make people feel that they're part of your journey, as opposed to the end person that you're giving a product to, they're more likely to be, they almost see your success as their success, if that makes sense. And that is highly incentivizing. So there's lots of things you can do. I find the best ways to get them onto an email list, because then you can actually promote to them. Another piece of advice I would give you is, if you do get people who want to leave you a review, if they're getting the Kindle, this is something I only found out a couple of years ago. So if they're getting the Kindle version, they will need to have read at least about 30 to 40% of the book before they leave a review. Because what Amazon does is it can see how far into the book that person has read. So therefore, if a review is left too early, it actually penalizes the author. So make sure that you do tell people, read at least a couple of chapters. But what I said before, also let them know they don't need to finish a book to leave a review. So if you read a couple of chapters and you've got something from it, feel free to leave a review. And be honest with them as well. A lot of people aren't aware of how valuable the review system is on Amazon. A lot of people think reviews are there to help people with their purchasing decision, which is true. That is the number one reason for reviews. That's why Amazon invented reviews, okay? What a lot of people don't realize is the number of reviews you get, especially within the first few days of launching, that actually informs the Amazon algorithm whether your book is good enough for them to push. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think reviews are for people. And so reviews are for people, number one. But number two, it's actually for the algorithm. So what I did really well was I told people, I really need you to leave a review, because I need other people like you to find out about my book. Now, you found out my book because you've got a relationship with me, but there's people on this planet who don't know who I am. So the only way I'm going to get to reach other people just like you is if you leave a review. And that really incentivized people, because they just thought, oh gosh, I do. They almost felt responsible. It's like, I need to leave a review because I need to get other people to understand what she's doing. So that's another way of incentivizing, is letting, a lot of people don't understand that. They think reviews are there for people, which, like I said, is true. That is the number one reason for reviews, but they have a massive effect on the Amazon algorithm. And that's when you can really, the reason my book did so well, I even got bestseller in Canada and Australia, and I don't even know that many people there. So I don't know how I managed that. But I think what happened is, because I know a lot of people in the UK and in the US, I got lots of people to buy and leave reviews within the first week or so of the book coming out. What that did is trip the algorithm. So now what happened is, when people were searching for books, not my book specifically, but books related on the subject, Amazon was recommending my book. And you know, when they do that thing, it's like, people who bought this book also buy books like this. Mm-hmm. Or people who like this tend to like this as well. You know, they just like recommend it. I think it's called a recommendation engine or something like that. You should know, you're more of a software person. That's kind of how it works. And when you get really good reviews within the first week or so of your book coming out, that lets the Amazon algorithm recommendation engine go, okay, this is a good book. So then it starts to search for books related in that subject and recommends. So now you're reaching people who know nothing about you. They don't know your book exists. They don't know you exist. They're just interested in your subject, maybe even searching for another book that they've been recommended, but then they see your book pop up and they go, actually, that book's better. Let me go and get that book. or let me get this book as well as the book I was meant to get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when that's when you really build traction, because now it's no longer just in your little world that you're making an impact. You're now coming out of your little world, and there's the whole of the world out there of people who don't know you, who now know you.
Yeah. So is that quite a tight correlation between reviews and sales? I mean, is it really quite a
yeah? Well, reviews and definitely visibility. Even if it doesn't always translate to sales, but definitely, you know, there's only so much visibility you can muster yourself. It's like, I think the kids now call it going viral. It's kind of like going viral on Amazon. You know, there's only so much impact you can make when it's the people who actually know you in some way. It's like when, you know, when people are famous in their own little village, it's like, great, you're famous in your village, but no one else in the world knows you. But when you become like someone like Angelina Jolie, it's like people who don't even like her know who Angelina Jolie is. That's when you really have hit that next level of impact, when you're actually being introduced to people who don't know anything about you. And to do that from an Amazon world point of view, you need to let the algorithm know that this is a really good book, because people are responding to it and saying it's great. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, it's the whole area I hadn't put a lot of thought into this stage, but yeah, this is great.
You're a long way after, but we will.
I know. I'm not worried about that yet.
Don't worry, we'll have that. As I said, after the first 3 months is when you'll be planning and writing your book, with my support. And then after you've handed in your manuscript and you can relax a little bit, you've done your hard work, and my team are now doing the editing and the design, that's when I'll be having that conversation, because then we're looking at around about 3 months, which is the perfect amount of time for you to mastermind exactly how you're going to leverage your book. So don't worry, that's all to come.
Yeah, that's good. I'm excited about that. That's great.
Awesome.
Thank you, Tanya.
Tanya, you're going to have to remind me what you said, because I can only I only have one question in my head. I can't store two at the same time.
So it was about the eco-friendly options through Amazon. How is it possible to do that?
Okay, well, you'll be glad to know in the UK and the US, Amazon have confirmed they're using vegan inks and glues.
No way.
Yeah, I know.
They
can't confirm it, sadly, for the rest of the world. So one of my assistants, I've got 3 assistants in my business. One of my assistants, she has a monthly job of sending the same email to Amazon, annoying them every single time as to why they still can't confirm in other countries. But it looks like it's going to happen. Okay. Unfortunately, what they haven't done at all in the UK or the US is they are not using recycled paper, sadly. They are still chopping down trees to make books. So again, my assistant has a lovely job of once a month sending the same email and annoying the Amazon team and asking them why they're not using recycled paper. But again, hopefully with enough publishers pressuring them, it will happen. I think the problem with, I don't know if you know this, but recycled paper, despite the fact that it should be cheaper because it's recycled paper, you're not chopping a tree down, but because of the industries out there that are chopping trees down, because they're doing it at scale, it's actually cheaper to chop a tree down and turn it into paper than it is to recycle.
Yeah, because it's the processing of the obviously and the extracting of all the different inks and stuff in the what would be cheaper and more environmentally friendly is bamboo.
Yeah, I actually know a guy who's talking about using bamboo for books. And also I've met somebody in Germany who's using, I think, a form of linen. So it's actually cloth. But he was telling me about the history of books, and the first books were actually written on probably, stone and rocks. But after that, it actually was on paper. It was only in the last 200 years we started chopping down trees for books.
Yes, it was on it was on grasses and reeds and stuff like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't even know that. I just thought that's what we've been using for a long time. He's like, no, that's a relatively new thing, this whole chopping down trees to make books. And it's obviously environmentally very unsound as well. So just to answer your question, the good news is at least you're using vegan inks and glue.
Yeah,
your conscience is clean. Unfortunately, they are chopping down trees, but at least it's minimal. The reason I like Amazon is it is purely print on demand. You don't have to order 50, 100. There's no minimum order quantity. You can literally order one book and they will print one book and send it to you. So there's no wastage. So there's a good thing. The other thing is I can introduce you to an awesome printer based in London. They use vegan inks and glues and recycled paper. But what they've also able to do, and this is something new for the last couple of years that they've been doing, is they are able to do print on demand as well. So they can set you up with, what they can essentially do is create a mini Amazon on your website so that people come to your website, they buy your book, but they get the order automatically. You don't have to contact them. They get it automatically. They send it out to you, and then they just take their costs out of it and send it. Pretty much what Amazon do.
Yeah.
They're completely environmentally friendly.
Because what I'm thinking is if I go to events and obviously have a stall or wherever I do or do a talk, I'm going to need lots of copies. So that would be the cheapest way of doing it.
They're a printer. So if you need 1,000 copies, they can do 1,000 copies.
Yeah.
But then they can also set up a portal on your website. So when because somebody coming to your website is not going to need 50 copies, or they want one copy. That's all they want. So you have the best of both worlds. You can do that. And then, of course, people can still go to Amazon. And yes, unfortunately, that does mean it's not recycled paper, but you can make yourself feel a little bit better that it is just one. You're not. That's what I do. People buy my book on Amazon. But when I'm going to an event, I need to take copies of my book. I don't get Amazon to print my book out. I go to this printer and they print my books out.
Yeah, I think I'd love to just get to speak to them in the future.
Not a problem. I'll introduce you via email. They're lovely. So I'm more than happy to do that. Awesome. Alan, I haven't heard from you this morning. I'm not forcing you. If you don't want to say anything, that's absolutely fine. But I just want to say welcome. I think it's the first time I've seen you here. And do you have any questions or opinions? You're an author yourself, so I'd love to hear your opinion.
Well, it's a completely new world for me. Organizing a book before you read it, before you write it. I've always hated writing.
And yet, how many times an author are you now?
Well, I've published 3 books. I've republished 2 of them.
Yes.
I've co-authored 3. I'm doing chapter 48 of my life story this weekend. I'm doing a chapter per week, and I'm doing a mindset book to accompany my mindset programs.
So for someone who hates writing, you seem to be doing an awful lot of writing in your life.
Well, yeah, the reason I wrote a book to start with, I've been into mindset all my life. Yeah. And when I lost my eyesight, I thought, well, I need a challenge. And what greater challenge can I do when I have to learn to touch type? I have to learn software for the blind to be able to use a computer. And then I'm going to do something I hate doing and I keep going until I've achieved it. And that's what I did with my first book, which was Wake Up, Don't Let the World Pass You By. Because what I'd noticed is most people just drift through life and they've no passion or purpose, and that's it. So I thought, well, let's get some life into them. And I thought, well, that's what I'll base my book on. But instead of cutting it down to the minimum, I'm thinking, how can I add an extra couple of words there or a couple of words there to bulk it out, you know? But unfortunately, I went with Author House, which is one of those horrendous companies. They didn't even edit it. They just put it out without me. You know, I couldn't see what they'd put out, and I could only produce what my computer read to me. So I didn't really know what was written down. Yeah. And lots of words that sound the same, which were completely
not the same, of course.
So like 6 years ago, I had surgery, which gave me very basic sight. So if I put my book on the computer, and I have, well, at the time I was using size 32 font just to be able to read it. Yeah. And I was trying to work through, and I thought all these different mistakes, hundreds and hundreds of mistakes. So I just edited it myself, but I'm not an editor. All I was doing was correcting the mistakes.
Yes.
But really, it needs
It
editing.
needs professional editing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that was Author House, did you say?
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's a warning there, people. Whoever's watching this, don't use Author House. Yeah, that's ridiculous because editing is the bare minimum. If you think about it, you know, it's the bare minimum as a publisher you should be doing. If you're not editing, then what was the point of you, really? So yeah, I'm sorry you had to experience that.
Is there a vegan publisher in America?
There is veganpublishers.com, but they are they're a traditional publisher. So what they do is they work very differently to me. Whereas I'm helping people self-publish on my imprint. And the goal is that they're kind of getting the best of both worlds. They're getting someone like me who knows what a book should get to from a professional standards point of view, but they retain 100% of the rights. Whereas what vegan publishers do over in America is they're a traditional publisher. So they pay for things like editing, design, etc., but then they own the book. So you no longer own the book as an author.
Oh gosh,
yeah,
that's a nightmare.
So I mean, Vegan Publishers is great. I actually know the CEO; he's a lovely guy. But the reason, I mean, a lot of people have asked me and said, in the future, can you see yourself maybe having a division of your business where you would become a traditional publisher? And it's something I struggle with. On the one hand, I quite like the idea, but on the other hand, I think, doesn't that mean I will stick my 2 pence into it? You won't be able to help it, because if you think about it, if you're paying, it's several £1,000s or dollars in the US to get a book to a professional standard in terms of editing and design and formatting, that means I now have a commercial vested interest in the book. So of course I'm going to, without even meaning to, try and sway the author to put content that I feel is going to be making the most commercial sense. Does that make sense? And that's where I struggle with that. I really like the idea that I help people put their mission and movement on the map. Not what I think it should be, what they want. And as soon as I become a traditional publisher, I won't be able to help it. I will have an opinion, because I would need to make sure it makes commercial sense for me, not commercial sense for them. Now, I always say going with a traditional publisher is a bit like getting married. When you start off, you're both aligned and you think you're both amazing. But like a lot of marriages that go down the toilet, what ends up happening is people, they stop being so aligned. Their ideas and the way they see the world changes, and it becomes at odds with each other. That can happen with a traditional publisher. And guess what? Who has the deciding vote? The publisher, because they own the book. So I've met so many authors who are not even proud of the books. They don't even want to talk about their books to people, because the publisher has changed the angle or changed a lot of the content, and it no longer represents that author anymore now. And that's a horrible place to be as an author, to have a book out there with your name and picture on it, and yet you're ashamed of it because it's not what represents you. So yeah, I struggle with that. But Vegan Publishers, I know the CEO. He's a lovely guy. And the fact that he's vegan probably means that you're likely to be aligned. And like I said, it does mean that if they like your book, you don't have to pay for editing and design and formatting. They pay for it. But you need to contend with the fact that because of that, they will own the book. Does that make sense, Tanya?
Yeah, it's fine. Just, I know somebody that had their book published with them, and they said they were really so disappointed because they literally did, you know, what they did, you know, was it Alan that said that, there's so many errors in it, and they didn't edit it, and they literally just took it off her and just published it without her consent. And well,
they can do. They essentially they own the book.
They own the rights to it, don't they? Yeah.
They own the rights. So basically, even if they do a terrible job, there's nothing. I guess there's no such thing as a free lunch, is there? You know.
No, and I think
if someone is saying, "I'm going to pay for all your editing," and well, you got to pay somehow. So and that's why I don't do that. That's why my clients pay me to get their book to a professional standard, and then they own the product. It's their product. I have no say in what they do with that book, how they leverage it, how they market it. And that's how I like it, because it means I come in for just part of their journey and give them an amazing product that they can leverage.
Yeah, I think that's
what
more
I do.
rewarding from the author's perspective, because you've got a book you're more proud of because you've had so much
It's your
contribution.
book.
Yeah,
It represents you.
yeah, totally.
Do you know what I mean? And you have complete control. And I have authors that come back, you know, a year later because, oh, can I change it? Can I add a chapter? Or can I do it? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can. Whereas as a publisher, I would be thinking, well, does this make commercial sense for me?
Yeah.
See what I mean? Now you've got another angle in this. So if someone comes back to me and says, I want to add another chapter, I'm going to sit there and calculate, well, that's going to cost me £2,000. Am I going to make this £2,000 back? Is this chapter going to increase the sales of the book? If it's not going to increase the sales of the book, I'm going to have to make a commercial decision and say, no, we're not going to add this chapter. Whereas when you own the book, it's the world's your oyster. You do what you want with it. So that's why I like what I do, in that people can really create a book that represents them. Yeah,
I really like. I really like your model. I mean, I've learned so much in a very short space of time, like, you know, since our conversations. But like I say, it's that empowering the user, but at the same time, I mean, just hearing about Alan's story, you're getting the support that you need, but you've got the control and the power of, you know, owning the product as well. So that's that really nice middle space. So
that's it. That's
really
kind of what
to me.
I do. I'm kind of straddling the two worlds, because I've just met, and I'm so sorry I had to go through that, Alan, but I'd love to say I don't meet lots of people like you, but I think every 2 to 3 weeks I meet an author like you that tells me they had a terrible experience with a publisher. And I always just think it's horrible, because people write books for a reason. Like you said, you had an amazing mission and cause to get out there, you know, because people are drifting through life, and it's only too late in life they realize this is it. This isn't a dress rehearsal for anything else. Once you popped your clogs, that's it. So you really need to be treating this life as a gift that it is. So your book is so important. And then to have somebody take the shine away from that by not giving you the services that you needed, it's just annoying and horrible. And I'm really sorry that you experienced that. I was just going to say, it was meant to be a 45-minute, but I'm loving chatting to you guys. That's why. So anyway, do you have any more questions?
No, I think
I'm more than happy to stick around for a little bit longer if you do have any questions. My stomach's rumbling though, but I'll control it. Don't worry about it. But if you've got any more questions, anything, please feel free.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Thank you.
Well, I'm hoping this was informative. Like I said before, if any of you do want to chat, Alan, Tanya, I think we've spoken before, Tanya, but I'm more than happy to. If you want to have more of a chat, just book yourself in. It's
thank you.
Yeah, it should be in the chat. Let me just have a
it is. I can see it.
It's in the chat. So just click on that link, book yourself in, and let's have a chat of where you need to be. And like I said, I mean, in both your cases, Tanya and Alan, you know, you're already halfway through your book, Tanya. You're almost finished, really, aren't you?
Yeah,
and I've already written your books. So it's very likely that my program isn't necessary for you two. But it could be just worthwhile having a chat about where you are and where you want to be.
Oh, I think I'm at stage 3-4 with at the moment, for sure. Yeah, well, I will be very, very soon.
Yeah.
So you can certainly help, you know. But yeah, I've already done the planning pretty much, and obviously the first step. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm not going to have any more of these forums for the rest of the year. I think I just need to give myself a little bit of a break, and people are winding down anyway, but they'll start up again in the beginning of January. So hopefully I will see you at another forum meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.